Bet you can't tell what's wrong with that one, huh? Tried to show you guys so you could see it actually driving in. This one happened to take a little bit of a spill. Now can you tell what's wrong? I gave you a hint. That right there is supposed to be straight. There's the other side. And what you're looking at is from this point forward, because this point is a tie rod. It's supposed to have a little bit of a bend in it right here. That's normal. But that inner tie rod that goes up to your steering rack should not. That should be straight. So this rod right here, that right there is supposed to be straight all the way to here. This is supposed to have a bend in it. But this one here, which is your inner tie rod, connects to your steering rack, is not supposed to look like that. Yeah, this right here, that's supposed to be straight. Anyway, so it throws your tires off. That's what you would actually adjust. This tie rod here, you would actually adjust that to adjust for your steering. Yeah, she's walking like a crab a little bit, huh? Let's get it up in the air and see how bad this is going to be. So back in here is one of the clamps like you normally see on a CV boot, where when you clamp it together, it sits like that, right? When you clamp it together, it mashes these two sides in and then mashes down, and that's what tightens up that boot. I don't know if I've got that same kind of clamp, so what I'm gonna do is stick a screwdriver in that slot that looks like that and try to widen it up to try to push this back apart to get that boot off of there. If I can do that, then I can see what it's going to take to get the inner tie rod off. So that clamp right there, I just stuck a screwdriver in there and opened it up a little bit so that I could pull these two halves apart. So it's supposed to sit in there like that. And let's get this boot off of here. Let's see if that helps us slide it down. Go. Off camera, I pulled this boot down so we can actually see what's going on. Alright. So the tie rod, inner tie rod, it takes two, is one for each side, 53010-HL4-A01. So genuine Honda part. That looks pretty close. You can tell that this threads into the rack. So we're gonna find a way to back up the rack. In other words, like hold on to it so that we can put a wrench on this and unscrew it and unthread it out of there. Yeah, that looks about right. Let's get that off of there. Let me get some wrenches together. So I looked at the new tie rod and it looks like it comes off normal thread. In other words, counterclockwise to loosen. So I backed up this inside rack with a 7/8 wrench. Seemed to fit pretty good, and I've got it resting on the upper control arm to keep it from turning. I don't want to put too much stress on that rack. Right. Now can we get this tie rod out of here? Okay, let's get these parts swapped over. So we took out the bent tie rod. We replaced the parts over to the new tie rod. The boot on, then the clamp, then the nut. And I pushed it all the way in as far as I could so that I have room to thread this on the rest of the way. Because we haven't pulled off the outer tie rod, let's go ahead and thread this on here. I'm going to start a couple of threads and then we're going to apply some grease there. Bottom it out and then start backing it off, and all that does is it puts grease all the way through the tie rod. Now let's compare it to the other side and see how much is sticking out on the other side. So I compared it to the other side and it appears to have, I don't know, about that much in thread sticking out or exposed. So that'd be a good place to start. This is generally a lot easier if you take off this outer tie rod and then just thread it on, and we may end up doing that. I just wanted to see if I could do it without taking this loose. That metal ring went on there next. And let's make sure it's perfectly lined up, because if it's not, it's going to cross thread. Okay, there's a locking ring right here that has two ears on it that have to line up with that the rack, right? The rack, and then the inner tie rod smashes into that locking ring. So it took me a second to get all that lined up, but anyway, so that's lined up. Looks like my light is trying to die on me. Finish snugging this down. When we get to the point where we're going to start putting some leverage on it, we're going to back up that rack again. Okay, starting to get snug. Put a wrench on the rack itself. That prevents it from spinning the direction that we're forcing it. So tightening the inner one in the normal clockwise direction, and I'm holding the rack, or backing it up is what it's called. Alright, that's tight. I want to get some of that crap cleaned out of there. Let's make sure none of this, make sure there's no debris in here. So then we're going to put some non-fluid oil on here. It's basically what you put in drills and, you know, the grease for drills and stuff like that. I would imagine that a normal grease would probably do just fine too, but this has a much higher melting point and keeps everything lubricated. This thing came pre-lubed, but we're just going to add a little bit to it. Now, since the boot or the steering wheel is turned all the way out this way, it's hard for me to push this boot all the way up, so I'm going to turn the steering wheel the other way. That'll give us a little bit of advantage. So you just push the inner boot on until it gets back on that same lip that we had it on. We're going to leave this clamp off until the very end, because this rod is going to spin inside this boot as we adjust the steering. But we can put the other clamp back on. So let's bend it back to shape. So I got the clamp mostly bent back into shape. So the idea was to put this square back up into mostly a square. And then when it comes back together, it's going to drop into that groove, and then this little tongue is going to fit into that groove right there. Once those two are locked together, you're going to use a pair of, you can use end cutters to do this, but anyway, this pair of pliers is designed to do just that. It crushes it that direction and then it mashes it down. So it's a special set of pliers that's for this, but you can do this the other way. You use regular diagonal cutters or end diagonal cutters and try to mash it together and then try to hammer it flat. Just improvising, right? But these are the right tools you're supposed to use. I got the clamp back together, put it, basically, you know, finagled it back into place. I'm probably going to push it up to an angle to where I can reach it with the pliers. So now I should be able to reach in from this angle up here with the pliers and smash that back into place. But you can see that's back into place, but this clamp is not on here yet because we want to be able to adjust this. We're going to turn this with a wrench to adjust the steering toe angle. I don't know if y'all could see that or not. I still had to improvise. Let's get the tire on. Alright, so let's turn the wheels back and forth a couple times so that the tires decide to seat into their position. So let's take a straight edge, somewhat of a straight edge, and do our best to try to see how that lines up. So right now, I'm definitely not shooting that one straight. Now that wheel there is pretty straight with the back wheel. I'm lining up the tire and I'm shooting, basically using it like a straight edge, all the way back to the back wheel. So let's see what this one does. Alright, so right now, this is towed in just a little bit. So let's grab a wrench and put it on here. And let's see, we want to pull this in some. All we want to do is take a 14 millimeter and try tightening it up. It's still towed in quite a bit. That's pretty close. That's pretty close. Alright. Once you have your alignment done, and tighten up this lock nut. There's a lock nut right here. Tighten that up. Once you got that, put this clamp on the inside boot. From this angle, it probably looks like because I'm looking in the camera and I can see it looks like the tires are still splaying out some like that, but it's not. They're actually straight, really straight. Nothing left to do but take it for a drive and make sure it tracks straight. going to take this thing for a ride, make sure everything's tracking like it's supposed to, but I can tell it already isn't trying to dig up dirt as I'm coming across the yard with it. So if you guys got anything out of the video, really appreciate a subscribe or a thumbs up. Helps the channel tremendously. Tells YouTube, tells them I'm doing a good job. And catch you guys on the next one. Thanks for hanging out.